In this video, we will see how to add a countdown to our website built on Framework360. First, we go into the website and navigate to the Pages module. Here, we will need to clearly click on our page where we want to add our countdown. In this case, for example, we have built this demo site that we want to access to add indeed this timer where we can show how much time is left, for example, until the purchase of an offer. Or it can also be added for events or many other types of content. First, indeed, we access the home page. In this case, because we want to add it to the home page, next we will need to clearly click on the block where we want to add our countdown. As always, let's remember that the row includes multiple columns, which are the blue ones, and the columns can include multiple blocks. Great, indeed, a countdown is a block. As we can see on the left, we could take the countdown block and drag it to the right. As we can see, it will indeed allow us to select different settings, including the option to choose a theme. As we can see, here are several themes that we will now take a look at, and the date when our countdown will clearly expire. In this case, by default, it says it will expire on 12/10 at 10:40. But if I want to enter, for example, November 10th at midnight, how can we see it? Our countdown will have opened, which will start counting down from now until the date. Clearly, we have entered in the input date. If we want to change the theme, as we saw before, we can obviously leave a generic theme, like this one here, but it's a bit lacking in style. Or we can select, for example, Flip Countdown. As we can see, this is much nicer. In fact, it opens blocks that show exactly when our counter will expire. We can go further in the settings. We see that we can use a date, or we can set the countdown to expire after a certain number of minutes from the page opening. That is, when the visitor clearly visits the website, the countdown will expire after 5 minutes. We see that it indeed starts to count down and will clearly reach 0. Let's go back to the date setting and see that after expiration, we could decide whether to continue showing it with 00 or hide it. We set it to hide. Thus, the countdown block will be automatically hidden when it expires. Here we could indeed also add a format, that is days, hours. If I want, for example, to add the word days, we see that the word will be added days, hours, minutes, and seconds, which is a bit more explanatory. Then we will go down and MOPT, and we can, for example, modify the element. We can position the countdown, for example, in the center. We can set the position of the values above or below. As we can see, in fact, the values will now be below the format, and we could also clearly add our colors. If we want to, for example, apply a red color to the entire block, we can do it with value color, but let's leave it as default, which is better. However, if we want to add, for example, since the background is colored, we could set the label color to white. By doing so, the formats will also take on a white color. Going down, finally, we find some advanced settings. For example, it allows us to insert a JavaScript code that will be executed automatically when the countdown expires. In this case, it's a somewhat advanced setting for those who know a bit of JavaScript. Subsequently, there will always be the classic tabs for design, display, and overlay, where we can add, for example, the countdown only for mobile. In this case, we are indeed hiding it for desktop and tablet devices, or we could do the opposite. We could add it only for devices, clearly tablet and desktop. All the other settings are typical of the Visual Builder, and for each block, we always find our design, display, and overlay tab.